Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and I'm off camera because I'm not wearing pants. Anyways, I was just reading the book John, Qumran, and the Dead Sea Scrolls by Mary L. Cole, and they made some interesting observations and comments comparing Dead Sea Scrolls to the Johnnian literature and the Qumranic text, Dead Sea Scrolls, to Johnnian theology. So, what is this? If you ever want to read a text of Revelation, pre-Revelation ideas, definitely the War Scroll would be one to read. So this was more or less the view of Qumran, or the Essenes, of how the end times would be, and Christianity also made their own end time eschatology and cosmology from that. So Mary Cole and different writers who contributed essays to this book, John, Qumran, Dead Sea Scrolls, discuss this on page 46. So what we're going to do is we're going to read a section of that, then we're going to read a section of the War Scroll. Go through it. It's excellent because how they use Pesher to interpret things that are happening to them at a certain period of time, and you'll see relationship to John portraying Jesus, a singular idea of the being the light, whereas in Qumran it was more of a community as being sons of light. And what happened was, to kind of come up with an idea about why they were rejected and things like that, say it must have been from the beginning that they were never meant to be the sons of light. They were always dark, and so the forces of light eventually will overcome dark. And you hear a lot of the words of Christ, Johnnian literature, attributing that to Christ and putting those kinds of things into the mouth of Christ. So let's see what they have to say about that. So this is on the book, John, Qumran, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, page 46. Discussions regarding Johnnian and Qumranic dualism have too often centered around cosmology and theology, when the primary occasion for dualistic thought was experiential disappointment and loss, accompanied by rhetorical and moral interest. The operative question, therefore, is how leaders in both of these Jewish communities interpreted community experiences and hopes in light of the dualistic constructs. The Qumranic sketch of the cosmological warfare in the War Scroll, herein the children of light are presented as being at war with children of darkness, maintains two primary contentions. First, that those who reject the message and stance of Qumran covenanters are wrong, and thus in the dark rather than the light. Second, that God will be the final judge, bringing the faithful to victory over their adversaries who appear to have gotten the upper hand, at least for now. The Johnnian dualism moves out of a similar structure. Although the elements are different, in John it is not the children of light who are rejected. It is Jesus as the light of the world who is rejected by religious leaders, whose sin is that they claim to see. This will be John 9:41. Further, the evangelist explains this reality more as a reflection of their not having been rooted in God to begin with, or at least loving darkness rather than light. So that's pretty interesting. So here, in face of the forced assimilation by the Romans, the corruption of the temple by those nations, both the Greeks and the Romans, trying to force assimilate the Jews, corrupting the temple. Then you had sympathizers who thought nothing of for personal gain, monetary gain, sympathizing with the dominating culture. This really bothered some, and so those Essenes, or those with they call the Qumranic ideas, ended up retaliating in some ways to that. I don't blame them one bit. Definitely you see this happening in other belief systems also. So then out of that, here you have the writings of John using the ideas of that community to reinterpret that on how Christ is viewed. And even today, it impacts us. Even today. How does that impact us? If you reject the message of God, maybe you were never to believe that in the first place. Kind of like Calvinism and those sorts of ideas. So it very much influences how Christianity views itself and how the early Christians after the temple destructions viewed themselves. And also, what was interesting is how Qumran viewed itself and the Essenes viewed itself or themselves after the temple destruction and their own destruction by the Roman Empire. So how did they think that would go down? So we're going to read part of the War Scroll here. And it's an excellent book put out, a new translation of Dead Sea Scrolls, commentary of Michael Wise and Martin Abegg Jr. And Edward Cook. They've been doing quite a bit of research and putting out translations of Dead Sea Scrolls. This kind of reads like Revelation. Who will do what first? And here, the evil one, or the sons of dark, their leader is Baal. And in Old Testament literature, sons of Baal were mentioned. So it's pretty interesting. Look up that word. It changes over time, and different attributes or different ideas were attributed to that. So here it is, 1QM, 4Q, not 491 to 496, the War Scroll. Armageddon, the war to end all wars. These words stir up images of inevitable conflict, the final focus on the dark side of the human nature, and the ultimate catharsis that ushers in the age of peace. All of these issues come to a head in the War Scroll. The text describes an eschatological last battle in gory detail, as righteousness is fully victorious and evil is forever destroyed. This vivid account gives us insight into how, at about the time of Jesus, some Jews conceived Armageddon. The first lines of the scroll lay the framework for a three-stage conflict between the sons of light, that is, members of Yahad, and the sons of darkness. The first battle finds the adversaries led by the kingdom of Syria. Although the name kingdom is most often used in the scrolls as reference to the Romans, its basic sense seems to have been archetypal bad guys. So, getting into that, here's column 1. For the instructor of the rule of the war, the first attack of the sons of light shall be undertaken against the forces of the sons of darkness, the army of Baal, the troops of Edom, Moab, the sons of Ammon, the Amalekites, Philistia, and the troops of the kingdom of Assyria. Supporting them are those who have violated the covenant. The sons of Levi, the sons of Judah, the sons of Benjamin, those exiled to the wilderness, shall fight with them, against all their troops, when the exiles of the sons of light return from the wilderness of the peoples to the camp in the wilderness of Jerusalem. Then, after the battle, they shall go up from that place, and the king of the kingdom shall enter into Egypt. In this time he shall go forth with great wrath, and do battle against the kings of the north. And in his anger he shall set out to destroy and eliminate the strength of Israel. Then there shall be a time of revelation, of salvation for the people of God, and a time of dominion for all the men of his forces, and eternal annihilation for all the forces of Baal. There shall be great panic among the sons of Japheth. Assyria shall fall with no one to come to its aid, and the supremacy of the kingdom shall cease. That wickedness shall be overcome without remnant. There shall be no survivors of all the sons of darkness. So that's pretty interesting. So you read in the end. Also, too, with the sons of darkness and the sons of light, there comes a Hellenistic idea, especially in Johnnian literature, too, of how Hellenism influenced this by reading the idea of Plato's cave. And if you ever read that, it's very moving to hear Plato describe that. So, I don't know, friends. Let me know what you think. Take a look at the War Scroll, and it's a beautiful read. and then compare it to some other ideas of end time scenarios. Especially how does Daniel influence these writings? Definitely there was some influence, and definitely Daniel influenced the writings of the Johnnian literature also. So there it is, friends. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and remember, if everybody's thinking alike, and somebody isn't thinking